Now, after the ESPYs and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, a Victoria County suspect is facing charges in 2 separate homicides. Plus, Kerrville begins the long road to recovery after the devastating floods. And growing divide over the Epstein files, how Trump and top Republicans are clashing on the case.
We'll be looking at the Gulf of Mexico, where we have a tropical system out there sort of wandering around. Will we get any rain out of it? We'll talk about it coming up.
And 2 Victoria West volleyball players look to make noise out in the sand. Find out how they're getting ready for this volleyball season later on in sport.
You're watching 25 News Now after the ESPYs. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Shauna Curry. Don Brubaker is off tonight. Victoria County investigators plan to file another murder charge against 37-year-old Jacob Kelly, this time in connection to the death of Mitchell Hubbard. Kelly was arrested July 10th and already faces a long list of charges, including murder and aggravated assault in a separate shooting on Laurel Avenue that killed Jeffrey Delaney and injured another person. Hubbard was found shot to death the next morning. An autopsy shows that he died from a gunshot wound to the head. Victoria police are investigating an auto pedestrian crash that happened Tuesday night on East North Street. Officers say 29-year-old Fernando Lamas Jr. was walking along the shoulder when he was hit by a car. He was taken to a local hospital, then airlifted out of town for more advanced treatment. The driver, 77-year-old Esperanza Villarreal, stayed at the scene and spoke with officers. Investigators say she did not see Lamas before hitting him. No citations have been issued. In Kerrville, organizations from all across Texas and out of state have come together to help not only residents impacted by floods, but also first responders who are still working around the clock. A 25 News Now crew was on the ground for several hours Wednesday. Homes completely wiped away, cars pushed blocks from where they once sat, and neighborhoods left unrecognizable. A park vigil stands where crosses mark the memory of the lives lost during the flood. There are no longer residents in this part of town. Only search crews and emergency teams remain, looking for those who are still missing and working to clean up the devastation left behind. Organizations not only in the state of Texas, but areas from Florida, California, North Carolina, they're out there as well, giving first responders resources and helping those in need at this time. And 2 young Edna residents raised $12,000 for Camp Mystic following the devastating Hill Country flood. To read this full article, visit crossroadstoday.com. And country star Pat Green is turning heartbreak into hope after losing his brother, sister-in-law, and 2 nephews in the Central Texas floods. Green is leading a star-studded relief concert that was tonight to help others impacted by the disaster. The benefit, held at Globe Life Field and streamed on YouTube, featured big names like Miranda Lambert, Dierks Bentley, and the Eli Young Band. Green says the funds will go to local relief efforts and families like his niece who are facing life after unthinkable loss.
Especially Texas country people, we're thick as thieves. We're family to each other. I mean, all these people I've known for most of my life, and not only that, but I look after them as much as they look after me.
The flooding has killed more than 130 people in Texas. The Trump administration has paused work on a new database that would warn Americans of their flash flood risk. This database would, for the first time, take the influence of climate change into account when making precipitation frequency estimates. It would also help people understand their risk and make for significant cost savings when designing and building infrastructure projects. The pause comes as flash floods from historic deluges have struck from New Mexico to New York City. More than 130 people are confirmed dead in Texas after the July 4th deadly flash flooding. Around 100 people still missing. And more rain is falling along the Gulf Coast. Let's go to Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez for a first look at really the first tropical activity that is kind of in our area, I guess you could say, for this year.
Yes, it is. I mean, we had Tropical Storm Chantal, which affected the southeast, but this is potentially Dexter. I don't think it's going to make it. What it is basically an area of low pressure, but it's right over the delta there. As a result, it's slowing down in terms of development. But all the computer models agree that it's going to go through Louisiana and then take a big sharp turn. That's why I think we're going to be okay, or at least not get a significant rain out of that system. We'll have much more details on that coming up in just a moment. Back to you.
Fernando Acosta Jr. is due back in court in 2 weeks for a pretrial hearing ahead of his murder trial set for September. Acosta is accused of killing Amanda Johnson, a single mother of two whose body was found in her burned out SUV in Matagorda County back in 2021. The case has been delayed several times, but after more than 4 years, a jury is now expected to hear the case starting September 8th. Uvalde County and the Uvalde CISD must release public records relating to the 2022 mass shooting at Robb Elementary School. That comes after Tuesday's ruling from a Texas appeals court. The court upheld a 2024 summary judgment that found Uvalde County and Uvalde CISD violated the Texas Public Information Act by improperly withholding critical documents from the public. This is an important legal victory for local and national news organizations efforting transparency from officials and law enforcement agencies. Well, tonight, President Donald Trump lashing out at part of his own base, accusing some supporters of falling for what he says is a hoax tied to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. After years of fueling speculation himself, Trump now insisting it was all a lie and blaming Democrats.
Tonight, the president blasting some of his most loyal followers, those now demanding answers from the Justice Department over the investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. President Trump now calling long-standing conspiracy theories about Epstein's so-called client list a scam and a hoax, saying, "My past supporters have bought into this expletive hook, line and sinker."
They're stupid people.
Our Mary Bruce pressing him directly.
You said this was all a hoax. Has your attorney general told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen of that?
It's not the attorney general. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats.
But it was Trump and his own inner circle who for years pushed these same claims. This was Kash Patel, named by Trump as his pick for FBI director, speaking in 2023.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Then Dan Bongino, Trump's nominee for deputy FBI director in 2024.
I don't trust any story they tell me about Jeffrey Epstein. There is a reason this client list is hidden.
In February, Attorney General Pam Bondi said reviewing and releasing those files was a top White House priority.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
But over the 4th of July weekend, the Justice Department quietly released a memo stating plainly that no such list exists and that no further information will be made public. Since then, outrage erupting among some of the president's supporters.
Like, look, where's the Epstein files? Boo, can't find them. Don't exist. Like, they can get away with man. Oh, yeah.
Still, Trump is standing firm.
Pam Bondi, I really think that she's done very good. She says, I gave you all the credible information. And if she finds any more credible information, she'll give that too. What more can she do than that?
Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Well, the city of Victoria no longer under a boil water notice. This brings us to our viewer poll tonight. Do you trust Victoria's water department to keep a similar issue from happening again in the future? Yes, you trust the city. No, you don't, or you're unsure. Been pretty consistent all night, but 63% of voters say they do not trust the city. And of course, we're waiting for them to come out with more information as they investigate what happened to lead to this. So if you have not voted, though, we do want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote. Well, here are some of the top headlines in the Port Lavaca wave. Local teachers aid in flood relief in the Hill Country, and the Port Lavaca City Council discusses slot machines in the city. To read these stories and more, go to portlavacawave.com. And staying in Port Lavaca, you can celebrate Christmas in July at the annual Nativity exhibit. This free event showcases over 1,000 nativity scenes from around the world. It runs July 25th through the 27th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day at the Red Barn on Highway 35. It was even featured on the Texas bucket list. Well, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit that like button and click the notification bell to get alerts. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10. Lawsuits target the Trump administration over ICE courthouse arrests and their impact on immigration enforcement. Plus, how doctors may soon catch breast cancer earlier thanks to new research.
Behind closed doors, too many voices go unheard. In Breaking the Silence, domestic violence in the crossroads.
People who are going through this know that they are not alone and that they can get the help they need and the help that they deserve, that they don't need to be scared. There is people that care about them.
Amaya Norman brings their stories to light and shows how our community is stepping up to help. A 25 News Now Extra you can't afford to miss.
The Trump administration is being hit with another lawsuit over its immigration policies. Civil rights groups are now suing to stop ICE from making arrests at courthouses. They say it goes against federal law and puts immigrants in a tough spot. Here's the issue. After President Trump took office, his team rolled back rules that used to limit ICE activity at courthouses. Now the lawsuit claims that government attorneys are asking judges to drop civil cases against immigrants, saying their situation has quote unquote changed. But once the case is dismissed, ICE agents, sometimes already waiting outside the courtroom, step in and make the arrest. From there, that person is often fast-tracked into deportation proceedings with very few legal options left. President Trump dodged a question on whether he would remove Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. He acknowledged that doing so could disrupt the stock market. Trump has rallied against Powell for months, demanding he lower interest rates. In recent days, Trump has turned his attention to an expensive renovation plan to the Federal Reserve as possible cause to fire Powell. Brian Todd reports.
Sitting on a coveted property alongside Washington's National Mall, two stately marble-facaded buildings, now ringed by construction fencing covered in scaffolding, so-called blue-skin waterproof coverings on the windows. The two buildings, headquarters of the Federal Reserve, and their costly renovation are President Trump's latest weapon in his war against Fed Chairman Jerome Powell.
I mean, it's possible there's fraud involved with the $2.7 billion renovation. This is a renovation.
The president indicating today that while it's unlikely he'll fire Powell, it could still happen if fraud is involved in the $2.5 billion renovation, a project that's been hammered on by the president and his allies for weeks.
The one thing I didn't see him as a guy that needed a palace to live in. I think when you spend $2.5 billion on really a renovation, I think it's pretty disgraceful.
Of course, Powell doesn't live in the building, but that hasn't stopped Trump from tying him to the renovation, the cost of which has shot up in recent years, from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion. The Fed says the buildings had to be upgraded because their electrical grids, plumbing, HVAC, and fire detection systems were antiquated. The buildings were constructed almost 100 years ago. There have been claims that the renovation would include expenditures for lavish items like rooftop gardens, water features, and VIP elevators.
It sends the wrong message to spend public money on luxury upgrades that feel more like they belong in the Palace of Versailles than a public institution.
But Powell and the Fed say those features were either not in the plans or were scaled back.
Some of those are just flatly misleading. The idea of elevators, it's the same elevator. It's been there since the building was built. So that's a mischaracterization. And some of those are no longer in the plans.
The Fed says the cost overruns are really due to things like the cost of removing more asbestos than anticipated, soil contamination, and inflation.
I think the building is just a sideshow. It's an excuse to make life miserable for Jay Powell because President Trump, who of course appointed him, doesn't like what he's doing.
What Powell is doing is not moving aggressively enough for Trump's liking to lower interest rates.
He's a knucklehead. He should have cut interest rates a long time ago.
Powell's resisted rate cuts out of concerns that Trump's tariffs could spark more inflation. But Trump and his allies continue their relentless pressure on Powell. Trump's budget director Russell Vought sending a recent letter to Powell saying the president was extremely troubled by his management of the Fed, including his, quote, ostentatious overhaul of the headquarters.
The U.S. is set to destroy nearly 500 metric tons of emergency food, high-energy biscuits meant for starving people overseas. The supplies have been sitting in a Dubai warehouse for months and are set to expire this month. It will cost the government around $100,000 to incinerate them. A former U.S. aid official says 2 rations a day can keep a person alive, and that before the Trump administration dismantled U.S. aid, staff tracked expiration dates to prevent this. The State Department confirms the food will be destroyed after efforts to use it failed. Well, are you an older adult looking to stay active and independent? A new study finds that increasing the number of steps you take per minute, even slightly, can help reduce frailty. Researchers say adding just 14 steps per minute led to improved mobility and endurance in frail older adults. That kind of boost may help delay physical and cognitive decline. To safely increase your walking cadence, experts recommend walking for 30 minutes at your normal pace while using a metronome, and then gradually adding 5 to 10 steps per minute. A new imaging technology is poised to revolutionize the way doctors diagnose breast cancer. With more, here's ABC's Melissa Adon.
Doctors may soon be able to diagnose breast cancer earlier. 2 recent large-scale studies found ways to detect previously missed breast cancer on mammograms. Researchers at UCLA are using artificial intelligence to detect cancer on mammograms previously considered clean. And another study found that a special imaging technique called radiomics can be used to detect cancer on mammograms not visible to the human eye. These promising studies come at a time when breast cancer rates are increasing, particularly in younger women. While these new technologies are still under investigation, enhanced screening may be right around the corner. For now, make sure your screenings are up to date. Experts recommend screening mammograms every other year, starting at 40 years old. If you have a family history of breast cancer or other health problems, you may be at elevated risk, and doctors may recommend starting screening at an earlier age. With this Medical Minute, I'm Melissa Adon.
Here are some of the top headlines in the Cuero Record. A convoy takes aid from DeWitt County to the Texas Hill Country after the deadly flooding there. And junior firefighters pick up the torch at the Nordheim Volunteer Fire Department. To read these stories and more, visit DeWittCountyToday.com. Well, 20 states are taking legal action against the Trump administration, accusing it of putting lives and property at risk by ending a key disaster prevention program. The New York Times reports a federal lawsuit filed Wednesday claims FEMA unlawfully shut down the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program without congressional approval. The multi-billion-dollar grant program was started in 2018. It funded nearly 2,000 projects to help communities deal with natural disasters. FEMA ended the program in April, calling it wasteful and politically driven.
Well, good evening, everyone. We're looking at 80 degrees right about now. Another warm day coming up for your Friday or Thursday, right? And 95 was our high today, which is right at where we're supposed to be. But we've been watching to see what's going on in the Gulf to see if Dexter may come alive. We'll be talking about that coming up in a moment. Well, good evening, everybody. We got a couple of warm days coming up as temperatures start pushing into the upper 90s. But then the question is, what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico? Yeah, we'll see it right here. This is the potential storm Dexter. It's not a storm yet. And the reason it hasn't really organized is because it's coming right along the landmass. And as a result, it's getting interference with the circulation. But the center of it is now right off the coast of Louisiana, right about there. Right there, and it's coming ashore tonight. So already heavy rains have started in southern Louisiana, and they've got some flash flood watches as well. Therefore, I don't believe that it will have time or space to actually organize into a tropical storm. Nonetheless, it's producing a lot of rain there, and if they've had rain before, this may be a flash flood situation. This is Invest 93L, as you can see right about there, located at 29.9 north and 87.2 west. And of course, it's at 30 miles an hour circulation right about there. But all these squiggly lines are different computer models that are predicting its path. And as you can see, the more the merrier. So if they're all in agreement, that's good. And they're all in agreement that it's going to take a turn through Louisiana and then come back out into the central part of the United States. So the question is, how much will Texas get? Well, here's the latest future tracker. And you can see the heavy rain over Louisiana. Right about here is eastern. Here's western Louisiana. There's the Sabine River right about there. So between Houston and Beaumont is where there will be some heavy rain, especially Beaumont, Port Arthur, and Lake Charles. Look at us. We're just on the edge of it there. And this would be Friday night into Saturday morning. So there is a chance that we'll get some of that activity, but not a lot is the way I'm looking at it. One of the reasons we're not getting a lot is because of this Saharan dust that's in our atmosphere right about now. That is going to be drifting northbound, also inhibiting the chance for Dexter to become anything more than what it is today. And so we take a look at the longer picture and where is the dust? Well, as we get into Saturday and Sunday, another big surge of moisture is beginning to cross the Atlantic, and we're going to watch that because it'll eventually get into our area probably early next week. So next week, the temperatures will start pushing into the upper 90s, almost near 100 degrees. So this is all going to be part of that situation. We're looking forward, and there you see, where's Houston? All right, there's Houston right about there. Here's Louisiana border. You can see the shower activity as we go from tonight, Wednesday, into Thursday. You see it coming into Thursday. There's Thursday rain, 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 rain. And then on Friday, you can see that whole mass sort of begin to pull up to the north. There you see it right about there. Watch, it goes down and then it starts going back up because that's where it's supposed to turn. Now, that one's getting real close to Houston, so we'll have to watch it carefully. If you happen to be driving to the northeast, you're going to have to consider that. If you're in Victoria, there's just a slight chance that we'll get some sort of shower activity, but there's no direct storm here. There would be the remnants of that storm, but the bulk of that rain will go up northbound. So we're going to be looking, shall we say, at it very carefully. At this point in time, its strengthening is almost non-existent, but it is a big blob of rain. We will not get anything tomorrow, that's your Thursday, with a high temperature of 95 in the Port Lavaca area. Inland areas, getting up into the upper 90s, 96 to 97. But generally tomorrow, Thursday, you got plenty of good weather to be outdoors and dry weather as well. So the rain opportunity comes in Friday night and into overnight into Saturday morning, and then it sort of pulls away. After that, we get into the very hot period of the year when we start looking at temperatures in the upper 90s. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that, put Crossroads Today on your phone. And we'll toss it over to Maxwell with some bouncy over there.
That's right, Matt, because we got Full Force Gym had one top national champion there compete out there in Minnesota from last weekend. We'll find out how she did later coming up. Sports. This past weekend, two-star Victoria West volleyball players and Avery Griffin and Isabella Bizel competed out there in Ellis Beach in the Next Step volleyball tournament that was held out there in Corpus Christi. And for these two players, they won gold in this event. And again, they wanted to improve their skills on the sand volleyball court. Again, they're going into their senior years. They're going to prepare for college coming up in 2026. And Griffin and Bizel mentioned how both playing sand volleyball and how they thought that was and what are the keys that can help them translate over to this season.
And Bella had the bright idea whenever we heard St. Joe had a sand tournament to come over here and just give it a shot and see if we liked it. And whenever we played and we ended up winning, we found that we really loved it. And so we looked into a bunch of different clubs, and then that's how we landed on going to Ellis Beach and Corpus.
Volleyball is a very communication. It's all about communicating, and I definitely think me and Avery could take that to West, to high school. Without communicating in sand volleyball, it would be crazy all over the place, wouldn't be able to get a ball up.
Both Griffin and Bizel believe this sand volleyball season will help them get that chemistry together going into fall action, because two-a-days are going to start there in early August and first scrimmages will start there on August 11th. Now over to Full Force Gym, where this weekend had the Stars and Stripes competition where gymnast Harper Majewski won level 6 double mini and she became national champion. That made it now 25 years in a row for head coach Chad Ganaway that he's got a national champion out there for Full Force. And Corey Weinheimer also got silver in level 7 double mini. Mackenzie Cantrell third on level 6 trampoline, then early for trampoline. So earlier I talked to the national champion herself and Harper Majewski about what her favorite moment was out of Minnesota and what she'll learn from this experience.
To the Mall of America and got on rides, and it was really fun with all my friends there. I'm going to take how I did so good at double mini, put it on all the other ones, and get first overalls on the other ones.
Harper and Full Force have officially finished up this summer season. They're going to end with, again, multiple champions that are going up. Now, going over to this right here, got a little early, right, with the High Plains Shootout, where we had 3 days for the High Plains Shootout out there in Aden, Oklahoma. And last year we had 2 Victoria East stars in Kason Coley and Ryan Steele. Well, this year we only have 1 Victoria East star that was out there in Bentley Blinka. And then we had Hallettsville pitcher there at Hudson Chernard. And so both of these guys did really well for these teams past year. And again, congrats for competing out in Oklahoma for this big time event. There to go. Now, how about the Victoria Generals? They played game 2 of that 2-game road series versus the Brazos Valley Bombers. Well, they got the bats going and they got the win 3-0 because Diego Diaz, he had 3 RBIs there yesterday, 2 RBIs there tonight. So he is the hot batter right now for the Generals. And again, they're back home tomorrow night. It's going to be Alzheimer's Awareness Night. They're going to have a jersey auction that's going to go out there at 6:30 p.m. before the game, before the Generals take the field versus the Kenya Cane Cutters. And finally, before we just got off the air, we had the 2025 ESPYs just end, and here are some of the top nominees we looked at. The Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award went to Salone Stevens. The Best Woman Athlete there in sports went to Simone Biles, and the Icon Award, Big Time Award for the ESPYs itself, went to Alex Morgan and Deanna Taurasi. And then the Best Play, how about Saquon Barkley's hurdle that he had in one of the big time games this past season. The Best Team went to the Eagles too as well. Also shout out there to the great Lee Corso. Again, he's a great person overall in college football. If you don't know him, he's going to do his last headgear pick there, Shauna, with the Texas-Ohio State game there out in Columbus, Ohio. So we get to see who he picked because he did start there with picking the Buckeyes there back in his first pick way back there in 97. Now, we'll see what he does. So, Shauna, I know you're ready to see if he puts that Longhorn headgear on, but maybe I'm happy if he gets the Brutus Buckeye on one. So we got a little competition going on for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just excited for college football to get started. Well, stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10, the Ohio State Fair is bringing some surprising new deviled egg flavors this year, and one unique option has everyone talking ahead of the fair's kickoff. Well, nobody likes their eggs scrambled like this. A truck hauling a dump trailer spilled around 20,000 eggs, rotten ones, while heading to a mulch facility. So, ugh. The spill happened at 2 separate locations. Crews say recent storms caused rain to collect in the open trailer, making the eggs float and eventually slosh out onto the road. Public Works and a hazmat team responded to make sure the spill did not harm the nearby river. Roads were closed temporarily while crews worked to clean up the mess and reopen the area safely. And I'm surprised they're not wearing some kind of mask or nose clip or something. Well, drum roll, the featured deviled egg flavor at this year's Ohio State Fair, Max, is something unexpected. The Ohio Poultry Association proudly announces chocolate chip cookie dough.
Oh, there we go.
A unique twist that blends
Yeah.
dessert and appetizer into one bite, combining indulgence with a touch of nostalgia. I don't know about that.
Cookie dough deviled eggs.
Yeah, but they have everything from hot honey,
I
sriracha
mean-
peach, Columbus pizza.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like I said, I've been at least to a couple of Ohio State fairs, and they got a lot of different options for sure. But I don't know about cookie dough deviled eggs. That's a little.
Now, if it were fried, it'd be good, huh?
Well, okay, that's State Fair.
Everything fried. Folks, we got a warm day tomorrow on the dry side. Friday night, we have possibly some tropical activity coming in. And that should wrap up on Saturday and get us some hot, wide weather next week.
All right. Well, if you get an itching for do something crazy tomorrow, it's National Tattoo Day.
No.
So, I mean, we could get a sun tattooed on us if you wanted to,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty interesting what people come up with, though.
It really is amazing.
It really is
And
artwork.
it's forever.
Yes. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Be sure to join Carolina and Parker for Sunrise at 5 a.m.